We do have a quorum, so we'll call the meeting to order, Kathy. Um, and I will open by reading the remote meeting procedures, my favorite thing. Alrighty. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, you'll need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application at www.zoom.us and create an account to use one of the calling numbers listed on the agenda. You'll need the webinar ID to join by phone only. While conducting meetings remotely, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to our standard procedures as possible. However, use of this platform will necessitate some additional meeting protocols. While the board members or commissioners and applicants will be in video and audio, public participants will join the webinar as attendee, meaning they're muted and with no video feed from them. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public can be recognized by using raise hand function found under participants from Zoom or make a request with the Q&A function. If you're joining only by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. If an applicant wishes to display materials, please make the request of the chair and email materials to board staff for sharing on screen. When starting testimony, please state your name and address for the record. There's a markup function in Zoom which will allow you to call out specific areas of presentation materials. As in any public meeting, indecent behavior will not be tolerated. Anyone who abuses use of the meeting platform will be terminated from the meeting. Business will be handled at the times indicated on the agenda. Business not concluded in the allotted time will be tabled to the end of the meeting to allow for timely logins and remote attendance. Board members are asked to announce themselves when making a motion in seconds so it'll be clear to the audience. The minute takers will make motions. All votes will be by roll call. When all business indicated on the agenda has been completed, the members will vote to adjourn the meetings, signaling the end of the meeting and termination of the ECAT recording. All participants will be disconnected from the webinar at that time. Applicants will join the webinar as attendee and promote to panelists at their agenda item. Applicants will then be able to share the screens and present their materials. As much as possible, presentation materials should be provided beforehand so that materials can be included in the public record. Individual board chairs and staff may wish to keep screen sharing to their computer. Applicants are encouraged to speak with staff prior to the meeting on how materials will be presented. All right, that being said, I will start with roll call. I am here. Ken, I don't think I saw Ken. Right? Nope. Okay. Ken is not here. He said it was going to be here. Jason?
Present.
All right. Jim?
Present.
All right. Dave? I don't see Dave here. Dave said he couldn't make it, so Dave is not here. Dan? You're there somewhere, Dan, right?
Audio issues, maybe.
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Okay, thumbs up. Okay, thumbs up. He's present. Yeah, I know. Sometimes you lose audio on this. It's so wacky. I don't think Jamie was here. I think he had told me that, right? Yeah, I don't see Jamie here. Lauren?
Present.
Yeah. All right. And Leisha? I don't think I see Leisha there. All right. I didn't hear from her. Okay, so Leisha's not present. All right, but we do have a quorum, so we will move forward. The first agenda item is approval of the meeting minutes for the June 17th, 2025 regular session. I sent those out this morning. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about the meeting minutes from June 17th? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved, Loomis.
All right. And do I have a second?
Second, Bruce.
Jason? All right, we'll have a roll call vote. I am a yes. Jason?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
All right. Dan?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. All right, you're back. And Lauren?
Yeah.
All right, so those minutes pass unanimously. The next order of business we have is the Richardson Olmsted Elementary School doing a walkthrough. I'm not going to push this. I think we might just table this for a bit. As you know, we're kind of busy with this project. So, and I think Leisha's pretty busy right now. So we'll keep it as an agenda item, but maybe next time she comes on, we can discuss scheduling that site visit. So, um, so with that, I think we'll just move into the Easton Public Safety and Public Works project update.
Great.
I will just before we get cracking,
Yep.
I just wanted to thank people for coming last week. It was we might have picked the hottest day of the summer, so I guess we'll know what the site's like on a very hot day. So I appreciate everyone coming out for that. I think it was very informative, and thank you for the folks, PMA and KBA and everyone who came out. I think everyone's questions were answered very well. So um, with that, I will turn it over to PMA.
Awesome. Yeah, you stole my thunder a little bit. I was going to say, hope all that went on the tour liked the progress so far and had a good time.
Mm.
Let me know if you can all see my screen okay with the presentation. And then before I get going, I'm not sure if everybody has met Sam Dowd, but Sam's a new member of the PMA team. He's been here about 2 months. He's a APM on this project helping out. So Sam's on this call tonight. So if you see him on site, just say hi the next time.
Thanks, Mitch.
All right. Well, let's jump right into the agenda. So tonight we just have a general project update. It's going to include a quick financial touch base, schedule update, next steps, and then any questions or comments that anybody has. On the budget front, so we're about 12% through as of 7/29 when we put this together, the total project budget. So from a cost standpoint, construction's about 6% through. That wasn't inclusive, I think, of the 4th rec that we have right now that we're reviewing. So everything's moving along as expected in the budget.
Hey, Mitch, just one quick question. Is there a way to enlarge that slide?
Let me
I
see
didn't know if
here
it's
real
possible.
quick. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah. Just now I can see the numbers. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so construction costs were about 6%, as I was saying, not inclusive of Rec 4. So that will jump up a little bit. And then everything else is in line with what we expect. So total project budget is at 12%. Any questions on this before I jump ahead? Great. That brings us over to our contingency update and change orders. So our total construction contingency is 8.7. Of that, we have about 1% of exposure, meaning that there's stuff in the pipeline that we're tracking that could or could not become a PCO and then roll into a change order. Change orders are showing 0%, but it's just very minimal. We had one change order for about $3,000. There was one ad and 2 credits in there. I think that the TRC previous reviewed, maybe 1 credit. But with those had TRC approval, and then they went to the select board for approval, and that changed the contract that way. As far as soft cost contingency bid savings, so we still have 98% available. In this, obviously, is the almost $9 million from the bid savings that we have wrapped into the soft costs. So that's why it's so high at that 10.4. And we've used roughly 2% of that. So there's about, let's see, 75% of the project left, and we've only authorized 1% of change orders. So pretty good there. That's it for the financial part. Any questions on financials before we skip ahead? Okay. Well, we're going to start with some progress photos. I know everybody likes seeing these. So this is the fire substation. You can see the masons had all their scaffolding set up, and they're really cruising at this point on the CMU block. You'll see in the next picture that since then it's progressed quite a lot. You can see structural steel being erected on the west side of the site. You can see the iron workers actually rigging up the steel right there to get it hoisted up into place, which is pretty cool. Another progress angle shot of the fire substation. Obviously, if you guys drive by now, these are when we put this presentation together. From now, a lot of progress has also been completed too, which is great. Here's inside. You can see that they have metal decking on the structural steel for the roof. Iron workers are still plugging away here, doing their detail work, getting some steel beams coordinated with the CMU block. Another angle of the apparatus bay. This is the back side of the building. Then we're jumping into public safety and DPW. So this is the big block wall that's on the back of the site. So it's the big, I think it's roughly 14 feet retaining wall that got built up. This is just a couple layers that you see here. So this is probably only about 6 or 8 feet, but since then it's been built up. We've been progressing with foundation work. So all of our footings and walls, for the most part, are going up and going smoothly. I think we have a couple of wall placements left over there. And since these photos have been taken, the masons have mobilized, I think middle of last week, start of this week, they really started hard over on Depot. And so the masonry's going there. This is a section of the building C that has been backfilled. So they put their insulation against the interior foundation walls and backfilled. They have been since excavating for interior footings and piers. Just another shot of that, looking kind of over at Depot Street. This was huge progress. So we got both of the swamp mats installed that allowed access back to the DPW site. So this is our temporary access to get over there to work on the abutments, which is the first part of the bridge that needs to go in. So the abutments will go in, then the precast bridges will arrive in the fall time, fall, winter, and those will get set into place. And this will allow work and tree clearing to happen back at the DPW site. We wanted to just show you a couple of timelines since the last meeting. So we have these on-site cameras which grab some photos every now and then so we can compare the two. So from 6/17 to 8/5, you can see the progress. Really good. Main Street's cooking right along. Very happy with the progress over there. They're actually working on some underground MEP work, and they're getting ready for a slab placement. And then the roofer is actually going to mobilize next week to start the roof work. Here's public safety. On the left, you can see it was 6/17 the last meeting, and then we shifted the camera slightly, but you can still see that previously it was just stoned in the excavation for the footings, and then we had footings in on 8/5. Or that was this picture wasn't taken. This was July 29th when we had updated the presentation. But still, we're very happy over at Depot Street as well. Any questions on the photos? Anybody want me to go back and take a peek at anything?
Mitch, I would just note that public safety, if you drive by today or this week, scaffolding's up for the masons. So the masons are significantly on site and in progress for the work. So they're at the apparatus bay now. So you'll see a lot of orange scaffolding around the apparatus bay. That's really the first part of the masonry that is masonry bearing. So the steel bears on that masonry. So they're really there to start their portion of the work so that steel can come in and follow them. They'll then shift back to the area that is the detention cells. So those of you who are inside that area in the back there next to the equipment where we walked past on site, that'll be the next area where the mason moves to, again, to support masonry bearing walls, getting that up and ready to go for the steel erection. Then will probably come the stair towers. Those two might flip-flop. But that really happens all before the steel gets there in order to facilitate that installation.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. It looks completely different from when everybody went on the tour just a week ago, just with the scaffolding and the CMU block going up, and there's door frames up. It looks great. Just touching on the master schedule, we are expecting a schedule update from Fontaine either next week or the end of this week or early next week. But as of right now, everything is tracking as we anticipate. This is just our internal schedule showing the substantial completion dates and when we started on each site. So everything's still looking good here, but I figured we want to put it up just as a reminder to everybody when these dates are. And everybody has any questions, I'll be happy to field any questions on schedule.
Has Fontaine raised any potential schedule issues, lead times?
We're tracking lead times pretty weekly in the OAC meetings. The main one right now is switchgear and generators. keep an eye on those. Fontaine's giving us weekly updates. They're tracking them internally as well. The only schedule, kind of snafu that we had was trying to iron out the Army Corps stuff, but that got worked out, and we've moving full steam ahead with that.
Yeah, Dan, I would
Okay.
say gear and generators are all approved. So
Yep.
that's a good sign this early in a project that the gear is approved and we're not in continuous resubmittals. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
since
I'll get-
there's like a first submittal now on projects. I don't. It's really crazy.
yeah.
Light fixtures too. We got to keep an eye out for those. But yeah, I'll give credit to Greg and his team. They've been turning around submittals fairly quickly and working with Fontaine to iron out any submittal issues that have been ongoing. This is just a mini compact summary schedule. As a reminder, we're in fire substation construction and public safety DPW construction and the timeframes associated with those. So roughly substantial completion April 26 for fire substation and November 26 for public safety DPW. Key dates, upcoming dates. So August 5th, that's today, our MBC meeting. I don't know if we've discussed about any future meetings, but I anticipate maybe a monthly update going forward. Andy, target sometime in September for the next one. We can circle back on an exact date, but just wanted to get these kind of laid out for everybody to see. And that's the end of our presentation for tonight.
All right. I had a couple, Mitch, questions, and I'll kind of pass it down to anyone who wants. Maybe, I know we've been talking just to keep the group informed about the end grid. I know it doesn't sound like that's a delay, Greg, but I just wanted people to know, you think that's still tracking all right, with the underground utilities. I know they've been difficult to deal with. I just wanted the group to know. Maybe you could fill us in as a group.
Yeah, I mean, we dealt with them early on during design. A different group is involved at this point now that it's in the construction phase. So we're working through with their field engineer to make sure everything's, resolved and they're able to come and place transformers when the building, is ready for it. That said, Main Street is relatively simple in terms of any, modifications they've requested there. Depot Street, given the size and complexity of the site, is a little bit more complicated, but it's nothing that I would say raises significant concern other than just making sure we stay on top of it and get that resolved with them.
Yeah, I'll just add, Greg, that we did meet with them on site probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it was a productive meeting. And now it's just staying on top of them, kind of annoying them to the point where they get us the information. And Greg's been doing a great job at that.
So it hasn't affected the schedule at all, is the bottom line.
No.
Okay, perfect. And the only other thing, I know it's kind of early on, but I heard something in the meeting today about some soil samples. So I know it's kind of early on in some of that testing, but again, I just want the NBC members to know. Maybe you could fill us in on what you know so far.
Yeah, so Andy, as part of this process, we've had Weston Sampson as our LSP on from the start. So during design, we went out and sampled soils in the site, not only because of the just nature of the site, but nature of the previous use. And generally speaking, those soils were clean, as the town's previous investigations showed. But there were some soils in certain places that had potential to have contaminants. Soils that have to leave the site need to be tested, and tested at a frequency that gets determined in a little bit complicated way, but basically gets determined by the receiving facility. That process has a process laid out in the specifications, is signed off by our LSP and the contractor's LSP. That process is underway, and what's been sampled to date is the tailings from the processed material on site. So the site contractor took material on site, they've processed that into general fill, so things they can use outside of the building footprint. And the result of that is good soil they can use, but also things that they can't use. So chunks of sticks and stones and kind of other soils that can't be used on site. In order to ship that material off site, that soil must be tested. The test results in a soil profile that we've just received, and that is under review by our LSP to determine what category the soil is and how that gets disposed. This is all part of the process. It's fairly regulated, and that process is ongoing. And no surprise, there's stuff in the soil, but I wouldn't raise the level of concern at this point, given that it's one of a relatively small amount of soil that's being exported. Most of the soil stays on the site, and two, the contaminants in it are relatively low levels. As far as I can tell, again, not an expert at this stuff, but we'll get the results back from our LSP in the next week or so, and we'll look at that in comparison to the quantities that we had within the contract for the certain soil types. So within the contract, there are some soil quantities in there for removal, so that they were in the bid. That said, things do change. As Mitch pointed out, we have a healthy contingency to cover any unexpected challenges that has been in the plan from the start. Knowing that we have a site that is rather large and complex, but I don't suspect anything will be a significant impact to the project based on what we've seen to date.
Greg and Andy, I can add the PMA team reviewed that report after the meeting against the reportable limits in Massachusetts, and we didn't see any that raised concern on our end. Obviously, it still has to go through the LSP, but the initial hits that were in the report were of such small concentrations that it didn't appear to trigger anything regulatory, at least from our non-geoenvironmental engineering perspective. So wait till we hear from the LSPs, but certainly felt better after we dug into it a bit more.
Yeah, and just for clarity too, Greg's designer, the LSP, was on site when they sampled it to take those samples to be tested. So they were there, they witnessed that. So they're heavily involved in the process as it moves forward. And now we just have to work through the submittal with the LSP and see what the next steps are.
So kind of in some, let me just, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
So the reused soil, are you aiming to use that as loam for planting?
So most of the reused soil, Dan, is general fill. They've blended it into general fill. We have some, it's a fairly large site and it seemed flat, but it really isn't. So part of the design process is because we knew we had soil that was high in fine content, and we knew that for the buildings, right underneath the buildings, we were going to have to either import or significantly amend soils. Part of our design incorporated kind of tweaking the grades and achieving two things. One, getting us up above the water table, particularly back at DPW. We wanted to raise the building a bit to get higher than the water table, particularly on the west side of the site where the grades were higher. That's where we were kind of close to the water table. That also raises us up for our infiltration systems, making sure our infiltration systems have the correct separation from that water table. And third, it helps us lose some of that soil that's less good on site. With some amendments, we can turn that into general fill, or the site contractor, I should say, can turn that into general fill. And it's typically cheaper and less risky to import soil, blend, and leave the material on site, because as we've talked about, if there were some contaminants, which there appears to be very low levels of contaminants, but if there were some contaminants in the soils, you can leave those soils on site generally and manage them there. It's when you start to export them off the site that the regulations get more complex and the cost raises. So importing clean gravel to amend soils to make general or structural fill is usually preferable given certain criteria that I think we meet here, and add some benefit. We get up above that flood level that's on the other side of the site. It does a bunch of nice things for us. So really we're an import site, Dan, but in terms of export, the only thing we're really exporting is a little bit of topsoil and some tailings. So very small export in comparison, just because there's some stuff we just can't use.
And then are we planning to import like loam, or are you planning to try and amend some of the site?
I would suspect he will amend the loom that's on site. He's already screened it. He'll test it and then he'll amend it likely.
Okay. I haven't had great luck past with doing it specifically for loam for plantings. But
this is very rich soil, Dan.
Okay. Take your word for it.
All righty, thanks, Dan. Anyone else have any questions? Anyone else from the MVC questions? The team. All righty. So in general, though, Greg, you don't nothing is so far as cause a concern. You know, as far as that's the bottom line. It sounds like.
No, Andy. Again, we'll let the LSP run through the submittal.
Yeah.
We got it today. They'll have their responses. We'll continue to monitor things, but at this point, things seem well within reason to us, and we'll move the project forward.
All right. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns about the project update? All right. Seeing none. I was just going to talk about scheduling. I know you had brought that up, Mitch. So, I think what we'll do is we'll kind of push it a little more than a month. So maybe I was going to put September 30th for the next update for the MBC. If you wanted to schedule that, and if people wanted to pencil that in.
Okay. Yep.
And I know, just a heads up, I know we haven't picked the date, but there is going to be a topping off ceremony. What do we, mid-October? I don't know. I don't know if I know it's going to be October. I don't know if we have any closer date to tell folks on the MBC.
I don't think we have a closer date yet. We need to see how steel's moving, and then we can kind of iron out a date there. But we should probably plan for October timeframe.
Yeah. So just so people know that we do plan on doing a topping off ceremony. I know Connor's working on it. I think it would, at a minimum, it'll probably be the MBC and the select board. It's probably a good time to do another walkthrough of the site, you know, while we're there that day. So we'll just keep it on the radar. That's all. All right.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate PMA KBA hopping on for the update. That was very informative. So I think we don't have any other new business. Anything else new business wise from the NBC? Anyone have anything? All right. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Loomis.
All right.
Second, Bruce.
Jason. All right, well, a roll call vote. I am a yes. Jason,
Yes.
Jim.
Yes.
All right, Dan.
Yes.
All right, and Lauren.
Yes.
All right, I think that was it. The meeting's adjourned. And just one final thing, if anyone, like I said, I usually try to go Tuesdays before the meeting. So if anyone wants to pop over on a date over there, just let me know and we can always get anyone else in. I know Jamie popped in a week because he couldn't make it for our walkthrough. So always feel welcome to reach out.